it. I look weird. Weirder than usual. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Shabbos. It is Shabbat. It's dark out already. Can you believe that? It's the days are shorter, but they will get longer after December 21st. And it was, however, an absolutely beautiful late fall day here. I don't know if this is typical weather for the Huntington area, but today was just a really sweet day. So leading into Shabbat, really nice. It was really, really nice. Well, here we are again for Shabbat services in Huntington. Let's ease our way into Shabbat. We'll begin with welcoming Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, but we're going to light our candles first. And I have Sam here this evening, and he's going to light our candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahalik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Sam. All right, let's continue on page 6. Let's read responsively in the middle of the page. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, things to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May the synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
Let's jump ahead to page 20. Page 20, Lecha Dodi, a song that comes to us from the mystics in Sfat. It's up in the Galil, up in the northern part of Israel, an absolutely beautiful part of the country where after the Spanish expulsion, a number of Sephardic Jews made their way to northern Israel, and the mystics, Isaac Luria and Joseph Caro and the like, made their homes in Sfat, and so Sfat has become a mystical city. And Lecha Dodi was a song that they would sing when they would go out into the fields right before Shabbat, right when the sun was starting to set, like it was here this evening. They would go out, they would dress themselves in white, and they would go and they would welcome the Shabbos bride, and they would sing Lecha Dodi. And so this evening, let's welcome the Shabbos bride with Lecha Dodi. We'll sing verses 1 and 2 and 8 and 9. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela, Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela, Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikabela, Yamin u'smol tifrotzi, V'et Adonai taharitzi, Al yadish ben partzi, V'nismecha v'nagila, Lecha dodi likrat kala, V'nei Shabbat nikabila, Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha uv'tzola, Tochem unei am segula, Boi chala, Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabila. Let's turn to page 222, and let's read the top part in English, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp and with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Let's continue with the Hebrew at the indent. Tzadika tahamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon, yiskeshetulin, beveit Adonai, B'chatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu, od yenuvun b'seva, Dishenim vera'ananim yihiyu lehagid, Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri velo havlatabo. Page 24, let's welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Well, there you have it, friends. We've eased our way into Shabbat. We've left the work week behind with all of its stresses and all the toil that we've worked through this week. We've eased our way into Shabbat, and we're ready for Arvit, the Shabbat, the evening service for Shabbat, page 145, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yerutei v'yamlik malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dichol Beit Yisrael, Bahagala, Uvizmahan kahariv, v'yimeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, Le'olam Olmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha brichu leilam hin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata daham hihiran v'alma v'yimheru amen. Page 146, the call to formal evening worship, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Let's continue on page 147. Let's read this responsively near the bottom. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom.
Day follows days in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures.
Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Page 148, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochveinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu v'orech yameinu uvehem nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavat techal tasir mimenu li'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol meodecha, v'hayu advarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom alavavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlektecha v'aderech, uv'shokbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot beineinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkeruhu, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Let's continue on page 151, and let's read responsively. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of page 152, Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Bailim Adonai. Mi Chamocha Nedar Bakodesh. Nohora Tehilo Hosefele. Malchutecha Ra'u Vanecha. Lokeyam Lifnei Moshe. Ze Eli Anu V'Amru. Adonai Himlo Leolam Va'ed V'ne'emar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo Mi'ad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Let's sing the top two lines of Hashkivenu on the top of page 153 and then continue together in English. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Al Shomreinu L'Chaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'Chaim. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 154, we'll continue with Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti li'olam. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. We're on page 155, the Amidah, which we'll start chanting together on 155, 156, and 157. Afterwards, we'll continue silently 158 through the end on 167. You can join along with us in the Hebrew. You can read the English or offer up your own prayer at this time. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu B'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevi'u el ibnei b'neihem, leman shemo b'ahava, melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, v'yizrat Sarah, atah gibor li'olam Adonai, Mechaye meti hatarav lahoshia, mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir hasurim, Umekayeh emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'givurot umidom melach melech minit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah l'hachayot metim Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. Let's turn back to page 160, and we'll read in the middle of the page together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And let's turn to page 163 for a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of thanksgiving on this Shabbat that's leading us into the week of Thanksgiving. Top of page 163, let's read responsibly. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
All right, and we'll bring our Amidah to a close with the prayer for peace. Shalom Rav, the top of page 164. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. And let's read responsively in English. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes.
Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue into every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart.
Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavorech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. All right, we're going to continue with the Mishaberach, the prayer for healing. You'll find that in the middle of page 253. And if you have anybody who needs a little bit of extra healing this Shabbat, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, any kind of healing, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart for the Mishaberach in the middle of page 253. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Let's turn to pages 258 and 259. Prayers for our community. We'll read together prayer for our congregation, for our country, and for the state of Israel. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us. Love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Ku'ulatenu, Hagein Aleha Bi'evrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha L'Rosheha Sareha V'Yoetzeha, V'Takneim Be'etza Tova Milfanecha, V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha, V'Nomar Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos. It is a beautiful Friday evening here, and this week it's Parashat Toldot, means generations, and last week we ended the story of Abraham and Sarah, and now we're going to move to the story of Yitzchak, of Isaac, for a little while. And the Parsha opens up with Yitzchak and Rivka, his wife, having difficulty conceiving, right? This is a trope that plays throughout the book of Genesis, difficulty conceiving. Even though God had promised Abraham that God was going to make Abraham a great nation, he and Sarah had difficulty conceiving. Now, Rivka and Yitzchak are having difficulties. And when she finally does conceive, she feels that she's having twins, right? There's twins, which makes the pregnancy even more dangerous, even more complex. And there are two that are born. That's what the twins are. The first one they call Esav, right? His name sounds like the word for weed, for wild grass. But literally it means hairy, right? Because he comes out and he's covered in this mantle of red hair. Right, so he comes out, and then the younger one, the younger twin, is named Yaakov, because as he's coming out, as Esav is coming out, Yaakov is grabbing Esav's heel, almost like he wants to pull him back in, so that Yaakov could be born first. And Yaakov, in fact, means heel, right, the bottom of your foot, right? So we have twins now, and this is going to open up for all sorts of complications. Esav, he is known in the Parsha as Ish Sadeh, right? He is a man of the field, right? He's an outdoorsman. He's a man's man. He's a hunter. He's one of the strong characters in the Bible. He's fearless. He's mighty, and he's favored by Yitzchak, right? He's his dad's favorite. Yaakov, on the other hand, is known as an Ish Tam. He's known as a mild man, a simple, not simple. Tam means simple, but he's not the He-Man that Esau is. Yaakov really likes to dwell in the tents. He likes to be where the gossip is. Right? He wants to be in the tents where the news is being exchanged. While Esau is out in the field doing what he does, Yaakov is still at home. And he's his mother's favorite. Right? So we now, not only do we have twins, not only are they kind of diametrically opposed physically and maybe even personality-wise, but now we have a little bit of parental favoritism going on. Right? Dad likes Esau, mom likes Yaakov. What are we going to do? Esau comes back from an unsuccessful hunt, and he's near death, or at least he says he's near death, and Yaakov takes advantage of him and says, well, sell me your birthright. Right? The birthright is the portion of the inheritance that the firstborn would get, the lion's share of the estate. And Esau says, look, I'm near death. What good is a birthright to me if I drop dead now? Take it. And so Yaakov gets the birthright for some porridge, from some lentil soup, as the Torah teaches us. After that set piece, we move on. A famine strikes, and we get a story that we've already seen twice, right? Yitzchak and Rivka move to a different part of the land, and they encounter a king named Avimelech. Well, we remember that from the Abraham story. And Yaakov says to Rivka, listen, pretend you're my sister, right? This is the third time we're hearing this story, right? And what modern biblical commentators say is that there was probably a tradition where the story was told about Abraham, and there was a tradition that the story was told about Isaac. Isaac. And so when they edited the stories, they decided to keep them both. They didn't want to cut one out, because that one that they cut out might have been the right one, might have been the original one. So we have that story again. Then we come back and we have another set piece with the brothers and the parents this time, in which Yaakov steals the blessing. He's already got the birthright, but he and his mother want him to have the blessing, right? The blessing is a big thing, right? It's the father saying to the son, you're my guy. I have faith in you. You're the one that's going to carry on the family when I'm gone. And so what Rivka and Yaakov connive to do is she covers him in animal skins so he could feel hairy. Isaac is near blind at this point. And she cooks up something that Esau would have cooked for his father, because now Esau went out to hunt fresh game so he could cook his father a meal. And before he could get back, Rivka and Yaakov have stolen the blessing. And Esau comes back and he says to his father, very tearfully, one of the saddest moments in the Bible. It breaks my heart every time I read it. Esau says to Isaac, don't you have a blessing for me? Do you only have one blessing? Don't you have one for me? And in his anger, in his anguish, Esau threatens. He says, when the old man dies, I'm going to kill Jacob. Right? So Rivka takes this as serious, and so do a lot of the commentators, right? They paint Esau in our tradition as this murderous psychopath. And when we do my class on battling brothers, we'll look at that and we'll try to figure out why. But in the heat of anger, he says, I'm going to kill my brother. And Rivka sends Yaakov to Padan Aram, a settlement where her brother Lavan lives. And Yaakov is going to have a rude awakening when he gets to deal with Lavan, one of the great cheaters and swindlers in the Torah. So we're entering into the next chapter of Genesis, where we're going to see Yaakov take center stage and watch him undergo a change that he has to undergo before he can become the leader of Israel. And so that's this week's Parsha. There's a lot going on, a lot of really great stories in there, a lot to unpack. All right, it's the week before Thanksgiving. Every year I look forward to this because I get to talk about why it's important for Jews to celebrate Thanksgiving. All right, It's one of the most celebrated secular holidays by Jews, right? There's nothing really religious about it. Yes, the pilgrims had the first Thanksgiving and they were religious people, but our tradition is full of Thanksgiving, right? In the Amidah, we have the Modin prayer, which is Thanksgiving. We have Hallel whenever there's a holiday or a festival or a happy observance. We have Hallel, which is a way of showing thanksgiving. And so for Jews, there's no, unless you're really, 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 really Orthodox, like some of the Hasidim, right? Even the modern Orthodox and, up in the modern Orthodox world, people celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a secular holiday, and there's nothing in the legal writings that says you're forbidden, right? Famous legal decisors, they're called poskim, Orthodox rabbis who answer questions that aren't necessarily self-evident. All of them equate the 4th of July and Thanksgiving, those kinds of holidays, that they're not religious, that Jews can celebrate them. And so since 1789 is the first Jewish Thanksgiving service. And it was held at Congregation Sharit Israel. And if you've ever been to New York, that's the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue. And it's a beautiful synagogue. So it was Sephardic Jews who held the first Jewish Thanksgiving service. And they still hold. The synagogue is still around. The synagogue is still there. And they still hold a special service on Thanksgiving. And then they watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade from the synagogue. Although this year they won't be. It's a much smaller parade. And then they do chesed projects. They go out and they deliver meals to shut-ins. They work at soup kitchens and places like that. So it's there is a tradition for us, right? So this year, we have a lot to be thankful for. But here's the surprise. I always like this one because the question is turkey kosher? You're laughing, right? Because, of course, Rabbi, we all eat it on Thanksgiving. It has to be kosher. Well, actually, there's a lot of argument about whether or not turkey is kosher. Well, I mean, it's a fine bird, right? It was almost Benjamin Franklin lobbied the early founding fathers to make the turkey the national bird. It's indigenous to North America. And that's part of the problem with whether or not turkey is kosher. It's not a simple question. It really isn't. It's a fun one to do research on, right? The Torah that are non-kosher, right? Birds that we can't eat, as opposed to mammals, right? It says if the mammal has this, you can eat it, right? If it has a cleft hoof, if it has multiple stomachs, it chews its cud, you can eat it. So any animal that fulfills those criteria, you can eat. But with birds, or with fish, right? If it has fins and scales, you can eat it. If it has fins but no scales or scales but no fins, you can't eat it. It has to have both. But with birds, there's no criteria given. It's a list of a number of birds. And the thing that they all have in common, except for one of them, I'll tell you the one in a moment. They're either birds of prey or scavengers, right? So we're forbidden from eating a bird of prey or a scavenger. And in the list, believe it or not, the Torah includes the bat. I guess, well, back then they didn't know biology or zoology as well as we know it. And so they saw this thing flying